Now that I've relaxed a bit, I can make the video that I actually wanted to get out. And it's something I've believed for so many years. And like people, when I talk to people about it in real life, it's like their brains freeze over, or they just glaze over or something. So I'm going to say it here. I have really, really tried to understand what is meant by free will. And yet I've always come to the same conclusion, right? I asked myself very, very simple questions. Did I have the free will to decide my parents? No. And in not being able to decide my parents, my nationality, race, and culture were decided for me immediately. Even if you don't personally identify with any of those things I mentioned, you probably identify yourself in spite of them, right? Which is still, you're still using it as a base because that's pretty much how you popped out of the fucking into the world. Did I have the free will to choose my gender or sex or sexual orientation? No, those things aren't a choice. And this gender identity culture war that we're currently engaged in is just such evidence of how people are so fucking fixated on bullshit fucking ass lies to continue these disgusting cycles we've been in for so long. I really do just feel so, I don't want to say pity. I feel sad for people who fall out of that gender identity binary. I feel like my truly my heart goes out to them, to be honest. Because most people that fit even within that binary, fuck, what is it called? Like, let's say the cisgender binary, right? A lot of them fucking hate themselves, right? I'm sure you know of straight, cisgendered people who fucking hate the shit out of themselves. Absolutely. And it's so crazy how once you fall out of that binary, it's now an excuse for them to galvanize such a fucking vitriol, right? Because anything different, and anything that somebody else does different, that also makes them feel more comfortable in their own skin, that it must be exterminated. There's no way somebody could feel comfortable doing something like that, right? It must be exterminated. And it's more to the point why I do not believe free will at all. Unless you're defining free will as something not predicated on anything I've just mentioned, which medically we know, right? I also didn't mention that you don't determine your environment, right? Your developmental environment, where you're born in, right? Where you grow up, you don't have a choice in that. And medically, we know in the first 5 years of your development as a human, in the first 5 years of life, what you experience there, the traumas you experience, all the little things your brain soaks up and then condenses and then spits out a personality, that it is set in stone forever. You can unlearn, you can grow, you can, do all these different kinds of things. But if you develop a personality disorder because of that first 5 years of life, it's with you until you die. If you develop several of them, you just have more friends in the party. Right? You would think if we actually, and that's not even mentioning that you don't even have the free will to choose whether or not to be born, which I would think is probably the biggest fucking choice anyone could ever make, right? Or be allowed to make. You don't have free will in that at all. So what is the grounding for free will? And it always ends up being some stupid ass circle jerk fucking avoidance of of admitting that your genius ass God just wanted to torture human beings from the get-go. If he had a tree of life and a tree of the knowledge of good and evil, why did he have a tree of life? Were they not immortal already? And if they weren't immortal already, then why is it that we're told that death is the result of sin? Unless they were created already sinful, or somehow they had like a, yeah. But they had, and this is the crazy thing. These I love how they contort their fucking selves, right? Because when Adam and Eve were created, they had free will, right? But they also had a sin nature. This is how they get away with this fucking sophistry bullshit. They had a sin nature. But they didn't commit any sins until, of course, they ate the fruit. But they had a sin nature, right? Because of free will. So to have free will is to sin. And free will, this is what I have come up with, right? Free will means nothing in the absence of sin. Sin itself is free will. And this is why even various satanic temple, I don't know, okay, I know there's a difference between the satanic temple and the satanic church. I know one of them is pretty fucked up, but the other one is actually pretty fucking based. When Aleister Crowley said, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," people read that and were like, "Oh my god, he's the fucking devil incarnate." Like, dude just sat in like a pyramid, got tripped off fucking mushrooms and realized, yo, yo, right? Because this is what the psychopath and the sociopath live by, right? Let's say the psychopath and the narcissist. I don't really like using these terms interchangeably, but I use them in particular contexts, right? For the psychopath and the narcissist, particularly the narcissist, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. This is why these people take what they want, when they want, from whoever they want, with no fear of the consequences. With no fear of the fucking damage they've left in their path. Because this is the only thought in their minds. Once they understand themselves that they are the fucking demon, right? This is the only thing in their minds. And another point, right? Since you don't choose your genetics, psychopaths don't choose to be born psychopaths, and yet they're constantly at this, they're constantly scapegoated, right, on behalf of the rest of society, because we're just so caring and compassionate, and we just love dogs and fucking and cats and babies, right? And the psychopath just doesn't care, right? They want to murder them, or so we're told. Same people who will believe in fucking, who will believe that the fucking military goes to Afghanistan to fight for their freedom in like fucking, in New Jersey, right? Literally same fucking people. There is no way an advocate for free will can ever bypass the lack of choices that we have, the lack of fundamental developmental choices we weren't allowed to make, right? If you can even call them choices to be in. But more than that, right? Leave all that shit aside. Leave all that stuff that I've put on the table. And realize one thing. From the moment you're born, the only thing you do once that sentience is activated, the only thing you do is react. React and react. You react, and then you condition yourself to react to the next thing after that. That's why I said there was only one exception in conditioning yourself. Because all these circumstances I've mentioned form you without your consent, really. Without your understanding and your consent of the consequences. But you can condition yourself, right? This is why I don't say words like choice anymore. I say conscious decisions, right? What is, because what is condition? When you try to condition yourself to do something, what is that process? If you want to condition yourself to eat healthy, work out, stop doing drugs, maybe, you know, what is that process? You have to find a way to use the time more efficiently to what you want to get out of it. Given the constraints that we live under, you yourself have given yourself another an objective that you consider as tangible, and you do what's in your power to do to achieve it, right? It's just react, survive, right? In some small part of it, you might not think that having eating healthy or working out or stopping drugs is a matter of survival. I mean, it is. Like these are the most common things we do. But like, it could even be something is like wanting to read, I don't know, the whole fucking Harry Potter series or something, right? You might not consider it a survival skill, but that's what it is. It's a it's a survival coping mechanism for the reality that you find yourself in. It's a healthy one, I would say. You know, wanting to read more and expand your knowledge and perspective about this reality is a fucking coping mechanism, but it's a healthy one, and it's fine for our coping mechanisms to exist. Because this reality is just a fucking massive cope fest all day long. It's a fucking cope fest. All people do is cope. Literally. Oh man, they should add coping as an Olympic sport, honestly. Oh god. Right? So if you find yourself in this reality, conditioning yourself is essentially finding healthy coping mechanisms. And in considering all that, it's fine to believe that we have no free will. We're all, you know, in the sense that you can't define your genetics, your parents, your developmental environment, right? The expression of your genetics, your culture, your nationality. You can't decide that for yourself before you incarnate here. We're all victims of circumstance. We're all victims of the cards that we were dealt. All of us. Our parents, grandparents, like, it goes on and on and on. If that's the case, do you now hold your cards and say you're going to victimize yourself and embrace that as free will, right? We have as much free will as rats in a fucking cage have free will. Right? Probably the rats are even freer than we are, because the only things they really understand is finding food and somewhere warm and just reproducing. But we do the exact same things, and yet we stand on ceremony about it so damn much. So I'm so confused as to, you know, what necessitates free will? Do animals have free will? No. Are they alive? Yes. What does it mean to be alive? To have the breath of life, right? If you have the breath of life, do you have a spirit? Well, for humans, yes, but it seems for animals, no? Maybe? I don't know. The Bible is fucking convoluted, right? I personally do believe the animals themselves also have some sort of spirit, right? They're probably more spirit. In fact, they do have a spirit, and they're more spiritually in tune with this reality than we are. I think we had been that spiritually in tune with this reality before. But once people caved into that greed and envy and jealousy and all those kinds of emotions, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. But it's a very short fraction of human existence, though. That's the crazy thing. It's a very short fraction of human existence. You could believe history is an entire fucking lie, and I tend to. History is the lie we believe in to justify the future. That's how I believe history is a lie. If you're talking in terms of historical events, and this is the thing, this is why I find education so important. It's not education that feeds into your confirmation biases is the reason why we're in this fucked up situation. Education that throws you into the fucking lion's den, that makes you have to react and think for yourself on your feet, that is the kind of education that I value the most. Because it teaches you to think outside your echo chamber, outside your comfort zone. It teaches you to go and talk to people you fucking despise and actually learn something from them. In doing that, you can look at human history, you can look at science, you can look at the origins of all these things. And while you can say that there's so many evil forces that have been deciding the major narratives behind them, you can also see that they're useful. You can also see the utility in them and how sequential that utility was built up from the past 4,000 or 5,000 years or so. History is just, reality itself is consensus. So of course history would be a fucking lie to most people, right? Even if it's just you. Reality is just consensus. In fact, the scientific world, if they don't reach consensus, and even if you have the study of the fucking century or whatever, right? In fact, Einstein's theory of what the hell was it? His part of his theory of relativity? No, it was the theory of background radiation, I think. Something to do with that. He was only proved right like 100 years after he came up with that theory. Like literally he was just proven right about it like around 10 years ago. So, in as much as you might believe history is a lie, it's all deception, that is a massive cope. It's a massively unhealthy cope. Okay? We get it. Yes, we all get it here. Yes, history is a lie. Like, funny thing about a lot of antinatalists, I'm pretty sure like you're well familiar with a lot of conspiracy theories, right? I love them. I sift through and see the ones that are actually true and the ones that are just fucking straight, like, just like fucking hilariously lunacy, really. I find it entertaining and I also find it insightful, right? My personal one, the personal one I love is to tell people that you pay banks so they can use your money to invest, right? That's not even a conspiracy. That's literally what they do. But if you tell most people, they'll be like, oh, no, you're like, if they're uneducated, of course, which is most people, that's the point, right? Banks have at most 10% of the money that they say they have by design. That's one of my personal favorites. And, it's funny how people will believe that history itself is a lie, and yet they'll be so committed to these these play-by-play historical events, especially with regards to banking and all this other kind of stuff. So it's like, is it a lie when you want it to be, or is it a lie when it's convenient for you and, when it validates your conspiracy beliefs? Which one is it? So I think I've gone on several tangents. As long as you understand now that free will does not exist, you're free now. That was the whole point of this. You're now free in understanding that you have no free will. There is freedom without free will. Freedom itself is what you get to decide, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be freedom. What the hell would it be? Freedom, is freedom really something we can all agree on? I don't think so. I don't think it will ever be that way. But in understanding you have no free will, you are free.